What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel.
Another day means another car to look at, and today we're going to be checking out a 2014 Hyundai Tucson. So HP and I already have a Hyundai Tucson on the Turo platform. It's a 2013. We bought it back in July. It's silver. We actually have a video that we made whenever we purchased that one, and that Hyundai Tucson just does average on the platform. It certainly isn't our best performer, but it also isn't our worst performer either.
Despite it doing average on the platform, we're gonna go look at another one today because you can never really have too many Hyundais.
Now, like I mentioned, this is a 2014. It's super clean. It has 98,000 miles, one owner. It, of course, has a clean Carfax, and the interior and the exterior are super, super clean. So as long as this car is mechanically sound, this could be a really good buy. It's currently listed for $8,500.
And the only red flag that I could find on it so far was that it was for sale at a Honda dealership a few months back, but it did not sell and it was sent to auction after that. So kind of curious as to why that is, if it's so clean. And this particular dealership is not in Fort Worth, thankfully it is in Dallas, in this lovely strip called Harry Hines Boulevard, where if you're looking for love, you found it. It's the best way I could put that politely.
Now, unfortunately, this car is located at a dealership. We try to avoid dealerships, either small or large ones, at all costs because there's typically higher costs associated with going to dealerships, but this one was just too good of a deal, we couldn't pass it up.
Hello, how you doing?
How you doing?
Wait for Edith?
For which car?
The red Hyundai Tucson?
I think I know you, right? From YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah? Or Turo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we are in the Hyundai Tucson. HP, what do you think about it so far?
Pretty dirty on the inside, but first let's acknowledge the fact that we pull up to this dealership in the middle of Dallas and we definitely don't know anybody down here. The guy goes and says, "Do I know you?" I think he's talking to me, but he's looking right at Aubrey. And Aubrey's kind of befuddled and he goes, "Yeah, from YouTube." And sure enough, he recognized Aubrey from YouTube.
Yeah, ever since I hit 100,000 subscribers on my main channel, it's happening more and more, and every single time it catches me off guard. But I have to disagree on this car being dirty. Like, sure, it's not brand new clean, but it really isn't that dirty at all. I don't know what you're talking about.
You must be blind. There's crumbs in the doors, on the side, a sticky substance which I can't determine is food or organic matter.
But exterior-wise, this car is extremely clean and is honestly perfect for what we're looking for. Nice partial leather, partial cloth seats. It's clean.
I like this. This was either let's fix it or we can just silicone it and call it a day. They chose silicone and call it a day. That is gross. What is that? Why? Weird miscellaneous scratches on the outside. I don't really know why. It just doesn't really make sense. On the bright side, there's not that much done to it where it looks like it's been painted several times. I like seeing scratches sometimes on cars because that just means it's normal wear and tear, not so much fixed areas where they were repairing stuff. You can kind of see a paint line right here, but it looks kind of old. Doesn't look new. Moment of truth, let's see how clean this car really is. 7 warm-ups, 211 kilometers.
That's kind of concerning.
No, because it's reading green, so all the monitors passed. I think that's good. If it were yellow, saying that the car still had monitors that were outstanding, that'd be kind of a concern. Tire pressure light is on, but it's not blinking, so I'm gonna go with it's just low, not broken. All right, now the true test. Let's take it on a test drive.
Now, I sort of feel like, HP, you're being a little bit of a negative Nancy here. I think that this car is really clean. Like, is it perfect? Of course not. But no $8,500 car that's a 2014 with under 100,000 miles is going to be perfect.
Brake check. Yeah, I agree, but $8,500 is a lot to spend on a car. And whenever you get in a car that just looks kind of gross on the inside, of course I'm going to pick it apart. It better look good on the inside for $8,500. And I just don't see this. That's kind of the problem with these kind of buy here, pay here cash lots. They get a car, they don't do anything, they just put a for sale sign on it and they go. And that's kind of annoying from a car sales perspective. It's like, what am I paying $8,500 for? Someone else's mess.
Which is fair, and I actually do agree with that. But whenever you take into consideration that this car's KBB value is closer to like 11.5 to 12 grand rather than 8,500, you start to realize why the car isn't immaculate.
Makes sense.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah. Yes, hi there. I just want to see if you could look up a service record for the most recent service history for a vehicle. It's actually not under the phone number. Could you look it up by the VIN number by chance? The last date or full VIN?
It looks like there's no ROs on here. I don't see any history.
There's no history of it whatsoever? Okay. The car was taken in by your dealership, but then it was given to auction, so I was just curious to see if there was any record of declined maintenance or anything that was done. It's kind of weird. So if it was for sale at this Honda dealership, or they put it as for sale, this car more than likely was traded in at that Honda dealership and then just went straight to auction, but they might have just accidentally put it on like, hey, we're going to sell this car, and either they saw something they didn't like about it and they're like, we don't want it.
It seems like there's a little bit of a rough idle.
Notice that too. Whenever we started it up, it kind of seemed a little high and then low. So off camera, we noticed that the idle was bouncing up and down, and it just kind of made me want to do a second look at the engine bay. And I kind of missed something on this side that I probably should have noticed, but not to worry, I caught it before we bought it. So right here we can see that this does have some writing on the side of this valve cover. I looked on the inside, I couldn't see any sludge. The oil looks actually in really good condition, but one thing I noticed is that this engine has been out before, and there's a bunch of silicone right here where Hyundai didn't use this type of silicone, which leads me to believe this engine has been replaced. This is a junkyard motor, and that's why they ultimately either sold it to or they sent it to auction, because this engine might have just been blown. Now, like our Tucson, this should have been covered underneath the recall for rod bearing failure. I'm not sure if somebody didn't know that this engine would be covered, or if it had a different type of failure that wasn't covered under the recall. I'm not really sure, so I'm gonna pass on this one.
So the official verdict is that we have to pass?
They're gonna have to pass.
So ultimately, what does it come down to for why we have to pass? Can you explain it just so that the people viewing understand?
So in most cases, whenever you see damage or something that was broken and it's been fixed, you no longer classify it as broken, it's just been fixed. So therefore there is no more issue. However, there's a lot of risk whenever you're dealing with an engine that's been out of a car and it's been repaired or replaced, and then it gets a new one in. From Hyundai, ours was replaced. Not that worried about it. Hyundai's got it covered. They did it exactly how they should. I don't know who did this engine. There's no record of it. This could just be pulled out from another engine that has, 180,000 miles on it. There's no way of us telling. We just know that this is not the original engine that this car came with. Just too much risk.
Which is a true bummer, because I really like this car.
I'm gonna be honest. I can kind of look past a lot of the dirt. Aubrey does recognize me as being a negative Nancy, but this is just the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Now, it is definitely a bummer that this car didn't work out. I was really hoping that this would be a good buy, but it's important for HP and I to stick to our pieces of criteria and to adhere to the red flags that we have predefined.
Now, for those of you that watch us and see us buy cars, you may know our red flags already, but for those of you that are new to the channel, let's do a little bit of a refresh of the things that we say we're not going to go forward with the purchase.
So we, of course, have our cookie cutter pieces of criteria that we always look for in every single car we buy. And this includes the car being 130,000 miles or less, having a clean title, meaning it can't be rebuilt or salvaged, and then it has to also be 12 years old or newer. These are requirements that are set by Turo, and we just simply have to follow them.
So whenever we take a look at the Carfax, something that we always want to look out for is the maintenance record. Does the vehicle have consistent maintenance being done? And if there's no record of it, then that's something that we get to look out for whenever we test drive the vehicle, because those things might have been neglected. So that's a good red flag to look out for.
And of course, through the Carfax, you can also learn whether or not a car has been in an accident or if damage has been claimed on the vehicle. But you always need to keep in mind that just because damage has been reported doesn't necessarily mean that the car has been in an accident, because damage can come from a wide variety of different places. Now, whenever we notice that damage has been reported on a Carfax, it doesn't necessarily mean that the car is a no-go. It just means that we need to look out at those areas whenever we look at the car in person.
Now, when we actually see the vehicle in person and we go on a test drive, we want to look at some of the things we looked at today. When the car is parked, is it idling weird? Does it do something kind of quirky or weird? Whenever you accelerate, do you hear any specific noises? And whenever you decelerate or start braking, does the vehicle start to shake or vibrate or pull a certain way?
And HP always takes a pretty lengthy look at the engine bay to look out for exactly what he noticed today, which is that the engine had been replaced. So looking out for things like sludge, new bolts, writing on different components of the car, which can be indicative of it being a junkyard car. There's a lot of different signs that you can look out for that can be major red flags and can ultimately make us not want to buy a car, which is what happened today.
Now, as for cosmetic stuff really doesn't bother us that much because the vehicle is going to be up to 12 years old, and that means you have 12 years worth of, well, regular wear and tear and use. So if we see light hail damage on the car, or if we see a bit of scrape or crack on some of the components of the vehicle, not really that concerned about it.
But cosmetic damage isn't all created equal. If you have cosmetic damage on something like the roof or the rear quarter panel, that's going to be drastically different than if you have cosmetic damage on the bumper or on the front fender, because certain parts of the car are much easier to replace than others, and so we want to keep that in mind whenever we're looking at cars as well.
And when looking at cosmetic damage on a vehicle or looking at things that look suspicious, chances are it probably is suspicious and it is something to raise a red flag at. It's like the age-old saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
And by following these set of guidelines that we have predefined ahead of time, it allows for us to make sure that we never let our emotions get the head of us. We never let FOMO dictate whether or not we purchase a car. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we purchase the right car for our fleet, one that won't have a ton of issues later on down the line, and ultimately a purchase that we won't regret later on.
But guys, as always, thanks for joining us. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and we'll see you on the next episode.